everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Planette. This one is called Post-Discovery. Listen, they done put Jillian's butt out. They done evicted her, deported her, whatever you want to call it. And she's got to go back to Earth. Oh, boo, freaking who. But here's the thing, Jillian did not uphold her contract. She knew that there was no males allowed up on the Planette, and that boy, he didn't just put on some shoes and then phase himself back down to Earth because he didn't want to be on the Planette to begin with. He couldn't be himself. See, and this is the thing. This is a lesson for us ladies who have sons. Let your sons be who they are. And because of that, it stirred up a bunch of confusion, and it didn't work out for her. So now she's on her way back to Earth, but we about to find out what happens to Jillian once she gets back. Okay? Y'all stay tuned, and let's listen together. See you on the other side. Introduction to the Planette. The Planette, a place for women, where women share ideas, where women contribute to a feminine society and community, educate one another, relate to one another. On June 1st, 1961, 34-year-old Ruby Severs was walking home from work one evening after finishing her shift at her job when she was encountered by a strange man. Ruby's husband did not come to pick her up because he was passed out intoxicated on the sofa at home, so she braved the 6 blocks to her house alone. She realized the man following her meant harm, so she began running. The street was quiet, and there was no one around to help her. She rounded the corner and found a door that led to an old warehouse and hurried inside, securing the door behind her. She was frightened and confused. She could only whisper the right words. "Help me. Please help me, somebody." After those words, she closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was in a strange place, another world she had never seen before. She saw a beautiful beach with clean water and white sand. The waves of the sea crashed, having a calming effect on her soul. The skies were blue, the bluest she had ever seen. There was no one else in sight as she looked around and discovered there were many resources which she later used to build up the place, to make it more inhabitable, to make it a home. Oh, she was excited. Ruby returned to Earth shortly afterward and told her husband about the beautiful place she had been. But he did not believe her. Instead, he had her committed to an asylum. But she escaped, and she made her way back to the warehouse with hospital staff chasing her. She uttered those words, "Somebody help me." Yes, somebody help me. Instantly, she was transferred back to the planet she discovered. Later, Ruby returned to Earth and told her 27-year-old friend Jackie about the planet, and they returned together and began building a home they now call the Planette. Welcome to the Planette, where women rule, where girls learn, where there are no men. Episode 7, Scene 1. Jillian made her way back to her friend Lydia's house. Lydia had given her the wig for Asher when she first left. She knew she could not go back to Harry. He would kill her for certain. She had not contacted him since leaving Ur. Lydia threw her arms around Jillian the minute she opened the door.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Jillian. Come in.
Jillian was in tears. She pulled her luggage into the apartment. She did not mind sleeping on Lydia's sofa until she could put the pieces of her life back together. Lydia fixed them both a cup of coffee and joined her friend in the living room, setting the coffee on the table before Jillian.
So tell me, how did they find out, Jilly?
Asher told them. I just think it's so cruel for them to deport me because I love my own child.
I do too. What kind of place are they running up there?
I don't know, but I'm in the mood for revenge. Lydia raised her eyebrows.
Well, what would that accomplish?
Lydia, they ruined my life. They were even working on a way to keep men there and keep them alive.
Yeah.
I
remember. I remember you telling me about the male skeletons you found.
Yeah, they could have used Asher for their study. They're working on that kind of stuff up there now.
Yeah, that's true. I understand why you didn't reveal his identity. I'm a mother, but I cannot say I wouldn't have done the same thing, Jilly. Now, about this revenge, what are you planning on doing?
Lydia took a sip of her coffee and set it down. Where do you want me to start? There are so many things I know that if I revealed them, that whole place out there would be in trouble.
What about your daughter? Isn't she still there?
She betrayed me too. Her statement alarmed Lydia.
Jillian, this isn't like you.
She should have returned with me. And because the laws up there aren't the same and 12-year-olds can make their own decisions, they didn't make her return with me.
I don't know, Jillian. I would think about it. This could get even more worse, especially for your daughter.
Episode 7, Scene 2. Do you think sending Jillian back was the solution, Ruby? Dr. Fatima asked after taking the woman's blood pressure. Everything is looking good. Ruby shifted in her seat before answering the doctor. You're too soft, doctor. First of all, Asher is a male. He will figure out how to survive on planet Earth. As for his mother, she lied. She breached her contract and betrayed our trust. It's actions like hers that could put everyone at risk. Dr. Fatima noticed Ruby's color had returned and she was looking like herself again. She had reversed aged. That told the story of the rook tree. It kept one youthful, and Ruby was a real-life experiment as to the rook tree's power. Well, we are doing studies. All I know is that the weather greatly improved when that boy left. He didn't want to be here. Jillian should have accepted that. How do you know he didn't want to be here? That's easy. He went back on his own. And by the way, did someone in security remotely disable the chip in my stolen shoe? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Fatima said as she placed a Band-Aid over the mark where she drew Ruby's blood. I'll get your blood work down to the lab. Make sure nothing on Earth affected you in the long term. Thank you, darling. Besides, I don't want my rogue niece using my shoes to make her way up here with those shoes. I would have to handle her personally if she accomplished that. I know you're concerned about that, Ruby, but I'm going to need you to focus on your health right now. Safety takes precedence over health, my darling. You're a cantankerous old woman. I guess I would be, wouldn't I? Episode 7, Scene 3. Lydia got Jillian a rental car. She would have to start her life over. Everything she'd owned before leaving Earth had been left behind. She would have to retrieve her birth certificate and social security card from the house she shared with Harry. Going back to that house would be taking a huge risk. She pulled in front of the house, but did not see his truck parked on the side of the house where he usually parked. He was an electrician and ran his own company. She opened the car door and headed up to the house. The third step leading to the porch creaked as she walked up. She hoped he was not home. She listened for sounds. She peeped through the window and noticed what a shamble the place was. It was as if he had not cleaned in nearly 2 years since they had been gone. She knocked on the door and did not hear a sound from inside. But then she remembered the back door didn't lock and wondered if he had fixed it since her departure. She headed back down the steps and around the house. She turned the knob of the back door and stepped into the kitchen. Dishes were piled high. The floor was dirty. There was a basket of laundry in the corner near the laundry room containing Harry's clothes. Dirty dishes were on the small round table where the family used to have breakfast. And beer and liquor bottles were scattered all over the floor, counters, and anywhere else you can think of. She carefully stepped around the objects on the floor, not to disturb anything, and headed towards the living room and headed upstairs. As she passed her son's room on the way to the owner's suite where she shared a bedroom with Harry, she noticed something. She backtracked. On the bed was a backpack, the same one Asher used when he lived on the Planette. She entered the room, but he was not there. The bathroom where the children used door was open, so she knew he was not there either. She sat on the bed and opened his backpack. Inside were a pair of shoes he had taken to phase himself back to Earth. He had returned home to live with his father, but where was he on a school day? She headed to the bedroom, knowing she would not have much time before someone returned home. She looked into the closet and removed a box where she kept important documents. She opened it, and that's when she heard a car pull up next to the house. She looked out the window and spied Harry getting out on the driver's side. A tall, thin, blonde woman hopped out on the passenger side. She could hear them talking as they headed around the back of the house and entered through the kitchen. She heard him laugh loudly, and the woman was using so much profanity, she would put any R-rated movie to shame. She stood in the hallway near the stairs to judge where they were before she would try to make a run for her car. They laughed loudly, and she could smell the stench of marijuana wafting through the air. She almost sneezed.
I'll be right back,
she heard him say. Then she heard the door of the powder room downstairs slam. She guessed he went to the bathroom. Jillian slowly crept down the stairs, holding her box in one hand and the shoes under the other arm. If she did not make it out now, she would probably not have another opportunity like this. She could take on that woman if she stood in her way. But she was no match for Harry. He'd proven that countless times. She could see the woman relaxing on the sofa, puffing a joint. Her feet rested on the coffee table and her eyes was closed, as if she was in another world. She wore a pair of shorts, old sneakers, a pea green tank top, and her greasy hair hung around her shoulders. She looked as if she had not had a shower in months. Jillian crept towards the front door, not taking her eyes off the woman. Then she went for it, opening the front door and nearly busting through the screen door and running towards her car. She opened the driver's door, tossed the box on the passenger seat, and hopped in.
Hey, who are you?
She heard the woman shout before Harry joined the woman at the door. Did he even have time to wash his hands? She saw him looking towards the car, but she wasn't sure if he recognized her. She had changed a great deal since living on the Planette. She started the car and sped off. Through her rearview mirror, she saw him standing on the sidewalk, watching the car take off. He used his hand as a visor to ward off the blaring sun. That was a close call, and she could not relax until she was pulling into the parking lot of the high-rise where her friend Lydia lived. Episode 7, Scene 4. I'm sure you all are aware that we had a security breach. Jillian Caraway passed her son off as a girl, and this put everyone at risk. Ruby spoke to the audience in the ballroom. She donned an off-white skirt suit with matching heels. Her diamond and gold choker complemented her lavender blouse. Because of this, we are going to assign everyone a phase-in, phase-out wristwatch that will only work for the person it is assigned to. Everyone will be fitted for this watch, and we will use your body chemistry to synchronize your device. I also had a personal dilemma when I was returning to Earth and discovered my shoes were stolen. There was some mumbles going around in the audience. We cannot take risks, ladies and girls. Nobody will be able to use your phase watch except you. When you return to Earth for visits, Jackie's team of engineers and technicians have been working on it. All attention was on Ruby. Women had driven miles across the Planette to attend the event, which was held yearly, but this was a special event. Some of the women lived in countrysides, and some lived in small towns and larger cities. The capital of the Planette was called Sistertown, a simple name that explained what they were about. Each town on the Planette had a name denoting femininity. Sistertown is where things were organized, such as the observation campus and the engineering plant. You could call it a capital city. It's wonderful to see everyone tonight, and I hope you all enjoy your dinner. And remember, I am never too busy to meet with anyone or hear any concerns you have. Applause filled the room as Ruby stepped from the platform and took her seat at the table with a family of 4 ladies who lived in Queentown, who hadn't seen Ruby in a few months because they lived 600 miles away. The weather had improved, gotten more pleasant since the departure of Asher. The mood lifted and everyone's health had improved, especially Ruby's. She was not taking any chances after her niece had stolen those shoes. Jackie joined her at the table.
Ruby, I think we're ready to test for your phase in, phase out watch now.
Perfect. I'll see you after dinner, Jackie. Can't wait to get mine, one of the women at the table said.
So Ruby, have you heard from Jillian since she left?
Was I supposed to? Besides, what's there to talk about?
I spoke with Liz, Jillian's daughter, the other day. She says that Jillian is planning on exposing us.
To whom? God? The women at the table laugh.
No, Ruby. To the powers that be on earth.
And then what? What could they do? We're not under Earth's control.
Don't underestimate those men on Earth. You know better, Ruby. They can be extremely vindictive, especially when they find out all the great things we've done here. They have missiles and other items of warfare.
And so do we have items of warfare. Probably more powerful than theirs, but I won't get too cocky just yet. Ruby was never one to back down if there ever came to be a war between Planette and Earth.
I'm speaking on their determination, Ruby. I think men will pull out all the stops if it means conquering women. They are all still the same, although we've evolved and have been living and thinking differently.
Well, you're right about that, Jackie. Tell security to tighten up. Be on the lookout.
That's my Ruby!
Hey, we didn't come all this way to lose. If Earth wants a battle, they'll definitely get to it.
What about our families on Earth that we care about?
One of the women spoke up. I'm not risking the lives of thousands of women, Sheila. After that, Ruby left the table with Jackie, and the other women at the table looked around at each other. Episode 7, Scene 5.
I don't know. Your story sounds way out in space, ma'am.
The reporter said, holding her cell phone to her ear as she strutted down Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C.
Call me Jillian.
Jillian?
There's no way I can sell a story about a woman who went onto another planet where only women live. That's way too bizarre. My entire career would end up in the shredder, and I would be the joke of all in the media.
Serena, I'm telling you, I was on a place called the Planette where women ruled, and no men were there. Serena headed to her red BMW, parked near a meter. No men at all. They kicked me and my son off the planet because no men were allowed. Serena got into her car and started it and pulled from the curb.
Let me ask you something, Jillian. Have you ever had a drinking problem?
I can't believe you'd insult me just because...
Because your story sounds just like the one I used to hear my alcoholic grandmother telling. It's only cute and funny because you know it's fiction.
You must believe me. Believe me, please. If you give me an exclusive, I promise you'll win whatever writer's prize, Pulitzer, or whatever they call it. I can even provide proof.
Okay. Tell you what, I'll think about it and give you a call back.
Jillian was frustrated when she hung up. Lydia had heard the conversation. She set a glass of wine in front of Jillian.
Jillian, I think you should think about this.
Why? I could make a lot of money off this story. Those people up there ruined my life. I haven't worked in nearly 2 years. I've been having a hard time finding work. You know what my answer is when employers ask me why I haven't worked in 2 years?
No. Why?
I tell them I was home taking care of a new baby.
What? Jillian, you're well over 40.
I know, but I don't look over 40.
Yeah, well, I'll admit, you do look younger.
And now that's all going to change. All because they wouldn't give me a second chance. They're all about women, but can't forgive other women. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I understand you. I do.
They need to be exposed. And that Ruby, she walks around like she's better than everyone. I cannot stand her. Never could.
But did you tell her that?
No. Just think. I almost risked my life to retrieve my documents from that house. If Harry had caught me, he would have beat the dog mess out of me the way he used to beat me. I had so many goals. I was learning so much, only for it to be snatched away from me. Lydia stood, joined Jillian on the sofa and hugged her.
Oh, it's gonna be okay. But I don't think exposing them so Earth can go to war with them is a solution. Innocent women who had nothing to do with it. You could do it another way.
Another way like what, Lydia?
Lure Ruby to Earth and go at it with her one-on-one.
And I'll steal her shoes so she wouldn't make it back to the Planette.
Well, there you go.
Episode 7, Scene 6. Ruby fades back into the Planette. Seems the watch had done its job. This is awesome. Now imagine being able to go just about anywhere with this watch. Jackie boasted. She had designed a watch with a UPS, which is Universal Positioning System, with universal time zones, and with the ability to communicate with others. Ruby received a notification on her laptop. When she booted up, it was Jillian. Hello, Jillian. Are you looking for your daughter? Did you call her residence? No, actually, I wanted to speak with you. Well, okay, Jillian, I'm here. Well, I would rather we talk in person. I'm so sorry about that, Jillian, but you know the rules. No violators will ever be allowed to visit. I know. I was hoping you could come here. That won't be anytime soon. We have events coming up every month for the next 10 months. Besides, Ruby did not trust a pygmy. So you cannot spare me any time. Keep in mind you still have my daughter up there. Perhaps you can tell me over satellite what your purpose is. Ruby, I feel you don't try to understand people. My first job is to protect. Did you not read your agreement? Being here is a privilege, not a right. You signed the agreement stating you understood that our mission is to keep everyone safe. But you don't understand what it is to be a mother. That's not the point, Jillian. You brought your son here and put everyone at risk. You need to rid yourself of that mal-identified conditioning. I really hate women like you. I'm not here to be liked by you, Jillian. I've lived for 90 years, over half of them here on the Planette. We have a way of life here that should not be disrupted by you or anyone else. What if I return without my son? I'm sorry, Jillian, but I cannot help you.
But what if...
Ruby signed off before Jillian could object. Ruby turned around and looked at Jackie, who stood behind her. You believe I was too hard on her? Jackie shook her head negatively. No, actually I don't. I realized after what happened to you that we can't take chances with our safety. Jillian did put us at risk. We cannot take things for granted, Ruby. You're right. Why, sister, you sure have changed your tune. Ruby, we've been here for many years now. We're sisters. I cannot stand the thought of losing you because of carelessness or trust. We're women. We'll never get rid of that nurturing side. But because we're women, we know how to think ahead. Who am I to try and deny that? Ruby stood. The women hugged. Ruby wiped her tears. Ooh, I love you, Jack. Aw, look at you. This is a moment, girl. What do you mean by that? To take your picture and show it to all the women up here. Nobody would ever believe me if I told them you teared up. Oh. Ruby punched Jackie's arm playfully. Episode 7, Scene 7. Jillian tried calling Serena again, but kept getting dumped into voicemail. She headed over to her bag and pulled out those shoes. She had been hiding them from Lydia ever since she returned to her apartment. She put on the shoes, but they did nothing. She knew her son had used those shoes to return to Earth, so why weren't they transporting her back to Planette? She headed down the hallway, took the elevator to the lobby, and out to the parking lot. She drove across town to a warehouse. She remembered when they were first transported to the Planette. She parked the car, got out, and opened the door. She put the shoes on and closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she was still standing in the same spot near the door. She did everything she was supposed to do, so why wasn't this working? She bellowed a frustrated scream. Why aren't these shoes working? She removed the shoes, stepped outside, and waited a couple of minutes before opening the door, stepping back inside, and putting the shoes on. She stood in the same spot for nearly 10 minutes with her eyes closed. When she opened them, she was still in the warehouse. The place smelled like metal and burning wood. She hated that smell. She finally gave up and headed outside to her car. As she started the ignition, she realized that the chip in the shoes must have been disabled. It would make sense if the shoes were turned off. Ruby had a technical team that was out of this world. The residents of that place always thought 10 steps ahead of the game. Stands the reason why they had not been conquered. Episode 7, Scene 8. Asher's return had been rocky. First, adjusting to school back on Earth had been troubling. He looked older than 14, and lots of girls were chasing him, more than he bargained for. His father passed out drunk on the sofa. Another thing he had a hard time adjusting to was the rotation of women in his father's life. Before leaving Earth, he knew his father had other women, but he'd never brought them home. He and his dad barely spent any time together, but he needed a place to live. He figured he would finish high school and hopefully be able to go to college or the military. He headed upstairs to his room, tossed his books onto the bed. He didn't have a backpack because the one he owned was too girly. Everything on Planette was girly. When he thought about it, the hardships on Earth were not as bad as on Planette. At least he could be himself on Earth. He grabbed his backpack and looked inside and realized someone had already opened it. When he looked even further, he realized the shoes were gone. He looked around the room. He wondered if one of his father's women had stolen the shoes. After all, he allowed them to roam the house. He wondered how much of his mother's clothing had been stolen by one of these whores. Then he thought about his mother. He suddenly sprung up from bed and into their bedroom. He looked into the closet and saw an empty spot where a brown shoebox used to be. The shoebox where she kept important documents. Mom, where are you? Did y'all see that? Jillian is in bad shape, y'all. Bad shape. Here, let me look at this down here. She is, I need to know what y'all think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment. Because y'all can see this stuff is getting deep. Okay? So, you just something else. And Ruby told Fatima, listen, you're too soft. Asher is a male. He will figure out how to survive on Earth. See, that's the thing. As for his mother, she lied. She breached her contract. It's actions like hers that puts everyone at risk. Those are Ruby's words. See, they can't be taking chances on that. Because eventually that little boy, or that, when he came to the Planette, he was about 13. Now he's about 3 years older. They can't take chances like that. They gotta stay with what works and what will be in the safety of other women. Okay, so y'all have a good night, and I'm glad y'all listen tonight, and I will see you at episode 8. Take care and good night. Bye-bye.